Middle of the week. Hope it's been a good one for you so far. I want to thank you for stopping off at my new YouTube channel at Traveling Weather, where we will talk about your travel weather conditions, what you can expect when you get to where you're going, whether you're jumping on a plane or on a ship or both in the days ahead. And by all means, if you do find this information useful, love to see you back here on a regular basis when you travel, and more than anything, help spread the word to fellow cruisers and flyers who you hear talking about a forecast, might be a little frustrated, and point in my direction. Love to be able to help them out. Also, don't forget that the real magic in this channel isn't just the forecast that I'm giving you for the next day, but it's also your questions, and you can get extremely detailed. I really want to drive that as the main part of this channel. You can give me flights, cities, times, ships. Let me know your ship you're on and the itinerary or the days, and I'll get the itinerary. But any of those details, and I'll dive in and get you a forecast specifically for you for the trip you're on. And that's where I think this channel will really sing, is by getting into each and every one of your requests and giving you either some confidence in the forecast of what you're seeing, or maybe I can give you a little bit of a better breakdown if the models aren't in line with what we're thinking in our forecast. So shall we dive in for your travel weather forecast for Thursday, October 9th, 2025. Going to start with the ports, and in the Bahamas, we will continue with these on and off storms we've seen all week, about a 50% coverage. There's plenty of really nice weather where it's sunny to partly cloudy and highs in the mid 80s or upper 20s, almost 30 Celsius. And then passing showers move through. So it's not all day rain, but it is a few rounds that we will possibly see, and seas very manageable at around 2 to 4 feet. Coverage rains up a little bit in Jamaica around Falmouth at 60%. Ocho Rios about 40% coverage, and we are looking for highs in the upper 80s and low 90s. All the seas are manageable and comfortable, and so are the breezes, generally easterly, around 5 to 15 miles an hour. Out in the west, rain chances are lower, down around 20 to 30% chance from Honduras up the coast from Belize to the Yucatan Peninsula, but also a little hotter. As a result, we're looking at highs in the low 90s and upper 80s for you. Highest seas, again, tomorrow will be around the Lesser Antilles, out around Barbados at 4 to 6 feet or just under 2 meters. This is not an issue for ships at all, just a little bit more elevated than the tranquil conditions that we're seeing around much of the Caribbean. And while we're here, let's talk about the airport hubs around the U.S. if you've got flights for tomorrow. Not expecting any fog in Chicago, Dallas, Boston, or Atlanta, and pretty isolated rain chances for us. Might see fog again returning to South Texas and South Louisiana, but also Southern California. Might have some patchy fog. Does not look like visibilities would be so low that it'd shut down LAX or cause major delays. But again, just a heads up in the area. Also in the Houston metro, same for New Orleans, where we could see some patchy dense fog through about 10 a.m. On and off storms continue in Florida. So not only Miami, but Orlando, Tampa, and Jacksonville. Again, these passing showers and storms. And in Philadelphia, pretty lovely day. Low 70s for a high. Isolated chance of a shower only at about 10%. San Francisco could also see some patchy fog through mid-morning. We saw that today at San Francisco International, that there were some delays due to low clouds and fog for flights around the San Francisco International Airport. And then what we're diving into for today is going to be the following. Of course, quick check on Tropical Storm Jerry. No major changes since I last saw you. And then the time we're going to spend are our two other things. The potential hybrid storm off the South Carolina coast, where it gains strength and also brings high winds and some choppy seas up the mid-Atlantic on Saturday. And then on Sunday, it'll be Delaware, Jersey, and New York coastlines. And then we'll end on those of you EPAC cruisers, those on board right now have been impacted in some ways by Priscilla, the hurricane. And I've got another developing hurricane that could impact Cabo San Lucas this weekend. So if that is going to be you, then I want to talk about it, and let's get into the details of what you will be seeing this weekend. First, we're going to start, though, Get a look at Jerry, old Jerry out here. No big changes in the forecast. That is the official track from the Hurricane Center, so still looking to curve and miss most of the islands. This is the European track and the UK Met track, so you can see pretty much in line. There's no major swing here in this curvature that we are seeing for what will be Jerry. Now, past that, well, this is going to be a little bit different story. I want to show you, we're going to go two areas. The storm that'll be the East Coast late week this weekend, and then I'll jump over and touch on, again, the East Pack for those of you who are on ships right now. But I want you to watch. So all this unorganized thunderstorm activity that we've seen day after day after day in Florida and the Bahamas eventually is going to start spinning up a low. But those of you in Florida, don't let your blood pressure rise. This actually looks to start gaining strength up around the South Carolina coastline, so past Florida. But you can see right here, here comes a weak low over South Florida and the Keys, grabbing that moisture that we've had for so many days over the Bahamas and also Florida. But it doesn't do anything. You can see still very tranquil conditions other than the on and off storms that we will have through Saturday, and then it gets organized here as we go through the day on Saturday, moving up the mid-Atlantic, as I said, with some higher winds. And then my main concern will be Sunday, especially second half of the day, where we do see winds around that 53 miles an hour in these areas here on the Jersey, New York Island, on the Long Island coastlines. Now, some of this does get into New York Harbor, but I am not seeing anything, again, like we talked about the last couple of days. I have no changes or concerns from previous days where, yes, it will be choppy going in and coming out once you're past the Verrazano Bridge from New York Harbor. But none of this, to me, is the ship needs to hold back or not, go through these seas. Very, very manageable. 50, 55 mile an hour winds, probably going to produce seas around 3 to 5 meters, at most 5. So I do think that while that may sound scary, it's not. The ships, especially these large ones going through New York, they can handle 3 to 5 pretty easily. You do start to feel ship movement in that 4, 5, 6 meter range. So just do know that going in and out of New York and the Northeast on Sunday, if this is you, you're going to feel some ship movement. Again, once you're outside the Verrazano Bridge for probably about a half a day or half a night before things start to smooth out the next day. And then we'll see improving conditions. But it's an interesting low that kind of hangs on through the first half of next week. You see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's still sitting here. And indications are all over the place. We're technically thinking more of a hybrid storm because it'll have some of the tropical characteristics, but if it doesn't have a true surface low on the surface of the ocean, then it's going to be what we call extratropical, or that means the low is more in the mid and upper levels. And all that means, it's more technicalities than anything in meteorology, but the bottom line is it looks like a pretty healthy storm with a lot of wind and some choppy surf here Sunday through about Wednesday in the Northeast. Now I'm going to back up just a little bit because I want to show you in the EPAC, very interesting situation playing out. Priscilla, of course, has already brought storms and some waves around that Cabo and not quite into Mazatlan or Puerto Vallarta, but some swell went that way to the beaches. Octave, we're seeing like a little bit of a Fujiwara effect, and that's where these storms can dance around each other. And what you're going to see in the models in just a second when I show you is Octave will actually slide east towards this 90E, and then Priscilla, as it moves on, some of Octave's energy will help develop this next hurricane. Raymond's the next one in the lineup. And then as that plays out, this could mean, as I said, Cabo San Lucas on Saturday, you could be seeing some impact. So again, here's Octave right down here. There's Priscilla. And then I'll play this out through the rest of this week, and you can see this energy from Octave will merge with the Invest. And then as we get into Friday, Saturday, there it starts to spin up. And that could be some high winds and some swell that could be pretty choppy for Puerto Vallarta and Mazatlan, even though the low will be pretty far offshore from those regions. but then you can see it just seems to go right into Cabo San Lucas as a weaker storm, not as strong as Priscilla. So this is probably like a Cat 1 hurricane, maybe a Cat 2, but a much weaker and smaller hurricane. So the impacts, I think, would really pretty much just be about 24 hours as this comes through Cabo San Lucas, then goes into Baja California and up into the Gulf of California there in the regions of northwest Mexico. That is my main focus and concern for us in the next few days. But after that, long-range tropical weather could see a low here in the southern Caribbean. But this is, we're talking 10 to 12 days out. So all I want to do ending this forecast is just give you a little heads up and mark it as we're going to come back to this one in the days ahead and see if there's any need to track a storm. Do we actually look for this to become something in the days ahead? So with that said, I hope you have a great Thursday. I'll see you back here tomorrow with a fresh take on our forecast for cruising and for flying around the Caribbean, around the U.S. And of course, if you note on my social media, especially on my X, we are putting out Mediterranean forecasts. I know there's only a couple of weeks, if not a couple of days left before all the ships come back to the Caribbean for the winter, but we are putting that forecast information out there. And for those of you who will be cruising the lovely South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, we will start to ramp up those forecasts here in the days ahead, as well as we shift to the Southern Pacific summer in the weeks ahead. So until then, have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow.